Hey, what is up YouTube? In this video, I'm going to be explaining the programming structure. So, to help you visualize the stuff that we're going to be writing, this stuff on here just looks like a bunch of numbers and letters, and I completely understand. It might not make a lot of sense right now, which is why I like to use this analogy to better explain what the structure looks like. So I like to call this the onion analogy because it has different layers. If you look at the outer layer on here, you'll see that it's labeled imports, and that's what this is right here. Pretty much what this is, this import means that you're importing or you're bringing in code from somewhere else. And what this is for is when you're trying to reuse code that someone else wrote. Okay, so let's say you're working on your project and there is something that there's a line of code that someone already wrote, and you don't want to go ahead and start from scratch, and you just want to reuse that line of code or that piece of code in your project. That's what this import means pretty much. And the reason I wrote this box on here, what this means is that the scope or the boundary for this import is the whole file. Okay, so that means that this stuff that you import, okay, this extra code, this code can be used all throughout the file on here. Okay, and you can use it throughout within, you can use it with everything that's inside of this blue box. Okay, and the reason this is highlighted is because I'm not using any of this extra code or any of this imported code in this project or in this file, right? And that's why it's complaining. Whenever it highlights it like that, that means we're not using that line of code. Alright, so the next box is this red box right here, is the class. And the class is represented by, you can see the boundaries of the class by these braces on here. Okay, and just real quick, you're probably wondering, well, hold on, how come this import stuff doesn't have any braces? And that's because it just assumes that it's going to cover the whole file. Okay, so this public class has these two braces on there. This shows the boundary of the class. So if you click right next to the brace, you'll see that the closing brace is at the bottom, and everything inside, okay, and everything inside of the class is also on here in the diagram. Technically, okay, technically, but not typically, you can have more than one class in a file, but that's not good practice. That's actually, I don't know anyone that creates many classes within within the file. So I mean, if you're a professor, or if they ask you, can you technically create more than one class within a file, the answer is yes. Yes, you can, but typically programmers do not do that. So going back to the diagram, you'll see that we have global variables inside of the class. Go ahead and show you where that is. That is right here. Okay, and what these global variables are pretty much is, they're just what they sound like. They're variables that hold data. In this case, this is holding a 7, and the scope for this can be used all throughout the class. Okay, so where does the class start? It starts from the opening brace and ends at the closing brace. So we can use this global variable throughout the whole thing, throughout the whole class. Okay? Next, you'll see the method or method slash function. Guys, girls, remember, methods and functions mean the same thing. Do not get these two confused. Some professors like to use the word method, some professors like to use the word function. The reason they have two different names is because in the C language they tend to call them functions, and in Java they tend to call them methods, but they're pretty much the same thing. Okay? So inside of the class we have these methods, okay, and in here in here we have one method, okay, this method here. Okay, inside of the method you can have local variables and you can have statements. Okay, again, you can have local variables, which is this right here, and you can have statements. This right here is a statement. Okay, now you're probably wondering, well, you said you have global variables here and you have a local variable down here. Well, what is the difference? The difference is the scoping or the boundaries. This global variable, you can use it anywhere in the class, right? But this local variable, you can only use it within the method boundaries. And again, the method boundaries is this open brace to this closing brace. Okay, and yeah, that pretty much lays everything out. Again, we have the imports layer on here. Okay, that's this whole thing. It covers the whole file. Then we have our class, which is this right here, okay, which is the red box. And inside of that red box, or inside of that class, we have global variables. This is a global variable. Okay, it's going to be right below the class header. Okay, and we also have methods. Okay, and this right here is our method, and it has this boundary here. And it uses braces to show that boundary. Inside of that method we have local variables and we have statements. Okay, alright, thanks for watching my video. I'll go ahead and leave this up if you want to pause the video and maybe sketch it on a notebook or something. But believe me, if you focus on this structure on here, this little diagram, and you kind of just remember it, believe me, programming is going to be so much easier. Alright, so thanks for watching my video.